Well, yes, there is some concern that the exit polls have been usually off in their forecasts. But look, as long as we get a stable government, that's what we're really looking for. We're not building in a very strong political mandate in our forecast. So as long as we get a stable government, we're still on track to achieve a gradual recovery forecast that we have. So the numbers that we have is that GDP growth for March 14 will be 4.7, for March 15 will be 5.3, and March 16 will be 6.2. Well, as we've been highlighting in the past, essentially what India has been going through is bad growth mix, and two of the essential components of that was one, rising fiscal deficit, and second, declining private and public investment. So essentially the reforms that are needed are the ones which reduces fiscal deficit. We have seen some reduction in fiscal deficit, but at a consolidated level it's still about 7.5 to 8% of GDP. And similarly, on the private plus public investments, it has seen a decline of about 10 percentage point of GDP since the peak of March 2008. And so we need policy reforms to get that investment sentiment going up. And that's how we think that the new government should be able to bring back us out of this stagflation type of environment into somewhere closer to a Goldilocks environment. Well, we think there are three key drivers. One is demographics, which I briefly mentioned earlier, but not only that, we've got positive demographics, we've got combined with that an improvement in literacy rate and talent in terms of tertiary educated workforce. So that's the first one. Second is globalization. We do think that globalization has already played a big role in terms of boosting India's growth trend, particularly exports, and therefore it helps boost saving and investment to GDP. So second is globalization. As long as we have a benign globalization trend, that will still continue to work towards supporting India's growth rate. Mind you, in the last 3-4 years since credit crisis, the exports have been weak. But we do expect that the developed world's domestic demand will now be better than the last 3 years, and therefore we expect India's exports to improve, helping, as I mentioned earlier, to boost saving and investment. And lastly is policy reforms. Those are the three drivers. We briefly discussed policy reforms. I'm not listing the changes that we're looking for on the reforms, but it's demographics, globalization, and reforms that will drive India's story. Well, there are two key risks. Externally, we are assuming that global growth comes back to 3.7% by 2015 calendar year. In 2013, global growth was just 3.2%. And the forecast that we have for 2015 calendar year 3.7 is very close to the 30-year average in the world that we have seen. So we are expecting some kind of normalization in global growth from 2015. So that's the first risk. If it doesn't happen, then that would put some kind of downside risk to our estimates. And the second is the political environment. From a long-term perspective, we do expect political environment, even if there is a problem for 1 or 2 years, to come back. But from the near-term perspective, political environment will be another risk at home to watch whether we do get that policy response in form of reforms which is needed.